You're listening to Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go. Not to sound creepy, but I need to find a child to spend Halloween with this year.
I mean, that does sound a little creepy. I don't know how to get around that.
Welcome to October is what I'm trying to say. Because it's my favorite month, and I love Halloween. It's the best holiday.
Because your nephews
are gone.
Moved out of the country. So
yeah, I can't easily.
You can't just get to them easily.
No, and last year I was Alexis Rose and my nephew was David Rose.
You have nieces, but they don't live that close.
Well, I could definitely.
I don't have any kids to hang out with on Halloween.
Well, exactly.
I guess I could put a little costume on the dogs. I don't know how they would like that.
God. What I'm saying is I want to dress up, and no one trick or treats in my neighborhood, though. There's no little kids here. So it's not like people are going to come to my house and I can just be dressed up to hand out candy.
Yeah, that's what I did last year, and that was fun.
But I can't do that. So I think
there's no kids in this neighborhood. I feel like
there's like
kids
one child.
Around. Oh, just one.
And she's not going to come here. You know, she's going to go to someone else's neighborhood where she can actually get like a haul.
It is. I know Halloween is one of the more fun holidays, but I'm not a fan of Halloween parties, but I like getting to participate in.
I don't really like parties, but I would like a Halloween party is an exception because I love dressing up. It's so fun.
It is fun. It is fun.
I wish every party were a costume party, and then I would go to a lot more parties.
Would you really? I feel like that's not a big enough
than zero
for you.
More than none. It would be more than none.
Yeah.
I've had a costume idea for a decade that I've been wanting to do, and I have never done it. And it would be better as a couple's costume, but it would work as a solo costume too. I want to be Britney Spears from Oops, I Did It Again music video, like pleather jumpsuit, like moon boots, blue eyeshadow, heart of the ocean necklace. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I want a man to be an astronaut. That is what I want.
Oh, that's good. And I don't know if that costume would be
super
most appropriate
for trick-or-treating.
Well, trick-or-treating with small children. But you could go trick-or-treating with your nieces.
Yeah, I could also go to our friend Stacy's house. I've been thinking about asking her if I could go over there because she's closer and it's just one child, so it'd be less chaotic.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of kids in her neighborhood too. I'm sure there's lots of trick-or-treating going on.
But anyway, I like trick-or-treating. I think it's fun. And I want an excuse to wear a costume.
Do you remember when we were kids and it'd be Halloween and it was usually a school day and you couldn't wait to come home?
It was the best.
Oh my God.
No,
and then I'd have to.
But you could wear Halloween costumes to school
eat dinner
sometimes.
Before we could go to trick-or-treating. And it felt like it took forever before we could finally go out. It was so fun.
I remember there was like multiple years where you weren't really supposed to dress up, but you still wanted to. And so you'd throw something together last minute. Well, I did that multiple times. Like my friends and I, we were like 14. We were way too old to do it, but we wanted to trick or treat. So I just put on like a black bathrobe and like a towel on my head. And I called myself Professor Quirrell.
This is a fun fact about Halloween. My husband's aunt, who grew up in New York, but then married a Swedish man, so moved to Sweden in her 20s. He owned a toy shop, and Sweden didn't really do Halloween. And so he would always have a little bit of a lull in toy sales in the fall because kids are going back to school and there's not really a lot going on until Christmas. And so he was like, I got to get more sales in like the fall before we get to the Christmas season. And she was like, well, let's do Halloween costumes. And he was like, what are you talking about? Nobody does Halloween here. And she brought Halloween to this little town in Sweden, and it started to become a thing everywhere in Sweden. She could be credited with bringing Halloween to Sweden. Now, it was trying to get more sales at a toy shop, but hey,
as
the
are
kids love
many
it.
holidays.
But I did hear that she said the kids don't really understand that Halloween's one day, so they just wear costumes the whole of October.
Now that's an improvement.
I think so too.
Doing.
I think we should take that from Sweden. Just all of October, you get to wear costumes.
That's what I wish we
How
could
fun.
do. Yeah. Okay.
That's like a gravestone thing. Brought Halloween to Sweden, you know?
Okay. I mean, yeah.
That's an accomplishment. I would feel proud of it if I was her.
I mean, would I want that written on my tombstone? I don't know.
Well, maybe that's a little much, but
appropriate thought though with Halloween is to think about what you would want written on your tombstone.
Exactly.
I don't know. I'd probably be like, listen to my podcast. Available wherever.
Leave a rating and review.
Leave a rating and review. Don't act like I'm not going to see it from wherever I am now.
I'm still watching.
Oh my God.
Man. Okay. Should we get into actual questions now?
I'm very tired and kind of punch drunk. So who knows what's going to happen?
Well, we're going to give it a go.
All right. Well, this is a kind of long one.
Okay. I'll jump in. Hi, Krachel. I'm in the beginning stages of launching my business, and I'm experiencing this tension. Everyone says that starting a business takes a lot of grind and hustle, but a major part of the reason I wanted to run my own business in the first place was for the lifestyle. I want to be in charge of my working schedule and to have a flexible approach to work time, aka not working 24/7 or even 40 hours a week. I've been sticking to the lifestyle that I want, but I worry that I'm not making as much traction in my business as I should or could if I was working more. I'm a fire starter and I care a lot about the work that I'm doing, but I still don't want to spend all day glued to my laptop. From a financial perspective, I'm covered for a while, but I of course want my business to start making real money ASAP. Should I stay the course and prioritize the lifestyle I want and trust that the business stuff will work out? Or is there an inevitable amount of extra work and grind at the beginning that I should lean into before allowing things to chill out again? Thanks. That is from Early Entrepreneur.
Okay. I think we have like many layered thoughts about this.
Yes.
Thing number one, in no particular order, anything that you're starting from the beginning, something brand new, will require more effort up front. You will have to front load a certain amount of work that ideally you never do again, or you never do again to that degree. Like when you give birth to a child, you only give birth to that child once.
And they're only an infant once. Now, that's a very intense phase.
Yes. And it requires a lot of work and energy. Mm-hmm. But eventually the work and energy decreases to a certain degree. I mean, obviously a 5-year-old is still a lot of work, but you do front load quite a lot that you don't have to repeat.
And that's the creative process, whether you're creating a human or a business or a piece of art, anything that you create, there's the effort to create the thing in the first place. And then there's a nurturing phase. And then there might be a new creation phase. If it's a business, you might create a new product, or you might create a new offering, or you might create a new way of marketing that's going to create another surge of energy and effort, and then will require some nurturing after that. And then it might turn into pretty hands-off. It might start to fend for itself a bit. Almost like at some point, a kid doesn't really need you that much anymore. Now you're still there. You're still able to help them if they really need it, or you're still a resource, but they're mostly self-sufficient. That's where a business can get to. But there is a initial effort at any creative, at the start of any creative endeavor. You're creating a thing that didn't exist before.
No.
Now, I don't want that to sound, because you said takes a lot of hustle and work or
grinding, something like that.
I don't think it has to look like hustling and grinding. Yes, there's a initial lift, an initial push of effort, but that doesn't mean the answer is work 60-hour weeks for some period of time in the name of creating the business so that you can get into the chill phase. I don't think it has to be like that.
I don't know that that's ultimately more productive. Like, let's pause and acknowledge that more is not always better. And so I think of business as punching the gas and then easing off of the gas, maybe hitting the brakes at some point. Like, you're accelerating and then you're coasting, and then you're accelerating and then you're coasting. This is kind of not just business. I think this is life too. Like, you have phases where you're going to like go hard at something, and then you're going to ease off, and you're going to rest, and you're going to recuperate, and then you're going to build back up to going hard at something again. So that's a very different thing than just like going hard for no reason, because you think if I just do more work, I'm going to somehow make it go faster. What I would say is if you want it to go faster, you probably need to be more intentional about, okay, there's this strategy that I want to implement, and conceiving of it and actually creating it and putting all of the work into it and launching it or whatever would take me 4 months. So for that 4 months, I am going to grind, and I am going to hustle, and I am going to go hard. And then after that, I'm going to take it easy for a little while. Like, if you can strategically build in periods of hustle, that will probably help you go faster than you just thinking, well, if I just up my hours to 60 hours a week instead of 40, and I just sit behind my computer for 20 more hours a week, I'm going to inevitably make this go faster and make more money. Not necessarily. And almost potentially you could do yourself more of a disservice, because as we've talked about many times before, definitely when we talked about Effortless, the book by Greg McKeown last year, there's a diminishing return on energy and effort. Like, effort for the sake of effort is not necessarily productive.
Yep, absolutely. Time spent on business building activities is not created equal. So I want you to detach energy output from time, because if you spent 2 solid hours in a day putting a lot of energy and focus into creating a product versus 10 hours the next day responding to emails and thinking about what a social media post could I do? You just little admin type tasks.
Checking things as Kristen is wont to do.
Or thinking about things or researching things that are not as impactful to the ultimate success and financial growth of your business. Those days are not created equal. I would say the 2 hours spent on creating a really quality product probably beats the 10 hours of fiddling around and researching and checking things and thinking about ideas. So you can fit good quality creative effort into the lifestyle and the working hours that you want to fit your life around, that you have this ideal of the lifestyle that you want. But it's going to require being really strategic about what am I actually going to put my energy into.
Very intentional, very 80-20
and what's
rule.
Not that important in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
And maybe what do I not have to do? Because just because you're starting your own business doesn't mean you can't leverage automations or platforms that help do things more efficiently, or getting a virtual assistant, or getting a marketing person, or getting some people who can take your effort and run with it and grow your business with you and for you without you having to put all the time in. So think a little bit creatively about how do I approach this creative initial phase that is going to take more energy and effort, but doesn't have to take more time. If I'm using my time well, and if I'm maybe leveraging other people's time. So that's one thing I want you to think about, is that you can't get around the effort phase, but you can be creative and thoughtful and strategic about that phase. And you could put a time limit on it and say, I'm going to create this product over the next 3 months, and then I'm going to take a break.
I think you should put a time limit on it. I definitely don't think that, I mean, much like a car, if you just hit accelerate indefinitely, you're going to crash and or run out of gas. So you kind of need to be primed for accelerating and then like watching your gas gauge and like kind of knowing how far you are going to go before you fill up again. And that will make it easier to keep going. It will do wonders for your longevity because having a light at the end of the tunnel makes it easier to work harder for a little while because you know when you get to rest. Not knowing when you get to rest is like the most torturous, honestly, thing about it. I also want to just comment too on what you said where you got into business because in large part because you wanted to live a certain lifestyle. And then like a few sentences later, you said, I've been sticking to the lifestyle that I want. So you're kind of already doing it.
It's serving its purpose already.
Like you kind of already made it in one important way that I would assume you're not giving yourself proper credit for. That you don't think you've made it because you haven't yet made, I don't know, the dollar amount that you're looking for. But if you're doing it and you're still prioritizing the lifestyle you want to live and you're making both of those things work, even though maybe they're not working yet as well as you ideally want them to, that's still a huge win that I think you should give yourself more credit for.
Absolutely. And I'm even wondering, do you have a goal of how much you want your business to make you or other goals beyond the lifestyle that you want it to create? Because you say, I want to be in charge of my working schedule and I like that I'm able to work these flexible hours, but I worry that I could or should be making more if I was putting in more effort. Well, what's going to be enough?
Yeah.
So you could always be working more. You always, quote unquote, should be spending more time on your business according to your fearful mind because nobody else is, right? It's your business. So your mind can always trick you into thinking you could or should be doing more. You have to decide what's enough.
And why?
Because if I'm doing a business and I'm doing work I love and I feel really good about the work I'm doing and I really feel passionate about it, which you said you do, and I'm living the lifestyle that I want, then what's the additional goal that you feel like you're not reaching?
Right. What's the point of more work? Exactly. What's it going to do for you that it's not already doing?
So I think that might be a valuable question to ask yourself. How do I know what are my real goals? Because if I don't clarify what those are, how much I want to be making a month or how many clients I want to be working with, or how many products I want to put out, or whatever the goal is, in addition to the lifestyle goals you have, then you always will feel like you're falling short of what could be.
If you want to hustle, you got to hustle for a reason within a contained period of time.
Because you already achieved two big reasons: work you love and a schedule that you love. If there is a third goal, maybe it's a financial goal or something else, then let's call that out so that
how much exactly and what is it for? And
if I need to do a push to create something to get me there, okay, I'm willing to do that because I have this clear goal. Or maybe you're already meeting that goal more than you're giving yourself credit for as well.
But knowing what that goal is, being able to articulate it and give a number to it, and then a reason, I want to make X more money, and here's why. It helps you strategize with, okay, well then here's the hustle I want to put in to reach that goal. And now you know more about like how much time and energy and effort it might take for you to get to that goal.
And if it's too much, you can bring back the goal a little bit.
Exactly.
If you're like, that's going to require way more time and effort, and I like my lifestyle, okay, maybe we refigure the goal for the time being, and you can always revisit it.
So the too long didn't listen version of that is do not hustle for the sake of hustling. Be smart about how and why you're working. And yeah, you might have to work a little harder and longer for certain periods of time. But if it is intentional and it is with a clear goal in mind and it has an end date, you can do that.
Also, remember, businesses have their they have a life of their own to some degree, almost like a child. I compare running a business very much like raising a child.
Which you don't know anything about, but you know.
No, I don't.
We've seen it, and we can use analogies.
But I have run a business, so I get that. I get that side of things very well. And just at some point, it kind of is its own entity. I feel like Rachel and I birthed Clarity on Fire, but that's a really weird image to think of collectively really birthing a business. But it exists without us even. I mean, it exists on its own. And at some point, we didn't have to keep putting as much effort in for it to keep.
Like, people find us and we didn't do anything to make that happen. We just did work. We created a quiz once and people are still finding us because of it. Like, we recorded a podcast episode 350 plus damn times and people are still finding them. Right.
Once it's out there, it's its own thing that people can have their own encounters with. Your business is going to grow. If you keep nurturing it to any extent, it's going to keep growing on its own. So you can only rush it to a certain extent anyway. That's like saying I want to just feed this baby a lot more formula early on, and it'll just grow up faster so that I can get out of this early phase.
Congrats. Nope, you just gave that child an eating disorder.
It's going to grow at its own pace, and you just got to keep nurturing it and giving it what it needs at each phase. So a little bit of this is patience, is all I'm saying.
Okay. That was a lot.
That was a lot. We have a lot to say about entrepreneurship after the past decade.
Yeah. And we got a couple questions about entrepreneurship this time. So I hope that answers a question potentially for more than one person. Mm-hmm. Okay. Question number 2. Dear Krachel, I'm someone who's transitioned from being very skeptical about marriage to being unsure about it, to wanting it for myself and understanding why that is, or at least what marriage actually means and looks like to me. The thing is, I've always been the marriage skeptic with my close friend and family group. I've always been able to rationally argue on the side of against and have been quite vocally against marriage. So how do I now deal with having been vocal about not wanting something to those closest to me? And now I've changed my mind. How do you adjust to that and speak about these things where someone close to you may notice that you're suddenly singing a different tune? Shelby.
And this is about marriage, but it could be about anything. It could be changing your opinion about work or politics or personal.
Someone changing your mind about politics?
Does that even happen anymore? Probably never.
A miracle has occurred.
It could be about anything, though, right?
Yeah, it could be. Listen to Malcolm Gladwell's podcast if you want to change your mind about everything. I love him. God, I love him so much. He's truly, we would be sister wives to Malcolm Gladwell.
Happily.
Even though I find him not attractive in the slightest.
No,
it doesn't matter.
No, it's not about that.
I love his brain.
I find his mind very attractive.
Yes. Sapiosexual for Malcolm Gladwell. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, anyway.
But yeah.
Changing your mind in public is hard. And it can be
awkward.
It's only become harder in sort of this day and age where it feels like people are keeping receipts. And so then if you change or you grow, it's like people are like quoting you back to yourself now. And like, honestly, my take on this is don't wait for someone else to call it out. You call it out. Because I think when you're like tiptoeing around it or you're worried that if you start talking about it, someone will notice that you changed your mind. Well, yeah, you're insulting their intelligence if you think they're not going to notice that you changed your mind. Mm-hmm. So instead of like the disempowering stance of, oh, what are they going to say? Are they going to notice? Are they going to call me out on it? Great. Guess what? You're empowered if you start the conversation or if you call it out. If you say, hi, yes, hello, it does sound like I changed my mind because I did. And you know what? I value growth. There is no shame in my evolution game. Like, people should be allowed to grow and evolve and update their thinking. And here's my updated thinking about marriage. And here's why it works for me now.
And not only should people be allowed to evolve and grow, don't you want to be the kind of person who learns things and rethinks things and takes in new information and new perspectives and is open-minded enough to take it in and filter it and maybe evolve your opinions along with it? I certainly don't want to be the kind of person who made up my mind about how I feel about everything in my 20s. And that's my beliefs for the rest of my life. I think that's a very
boring,
narrow-minded person who picked a set of beliefs and never questioned them, never evolved them.
Gross.
I think it's more of a sign of a open-minded, evolved, conscious, intelligent person who is able to change their mind and willing to change their mind. And that's not only is that there's nothing shameful about that, there's something to be emulated.
It sets a good example for other people.
Now, I think that the delivery can feel more empowering versus shameful. Yeah, I mean, now, if you go around saying, I feel really awkward because I was saying this and now maybe I kind of think something different, and you're apologetic about it and you're feeling embarrassed about it, then that's not representing the deep inner work that you went through to make that big mental shift.
Now, nor does she have to go to the town square and unfurl a scroll and go, hear ye, my thoughts on marriage have evolved.
Although if you want to, that's what social media is for. You can totally do that if you want to, but no, you don't need to.
Don't you hate those like narcissistic social media posts where someone is like writing an essay about what they're thinking and how they're feeling and why and how it's changed, and like no one cares, which is a really great point here, Shelby. You're kind of assuming people are going to care a lot more than I think they are.
They might go, oh, that's interesting, and then immediately forget and go back to their own life problems.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's like, I mean, I know that I just said people keep receipts and they'll call you out, and some people will, but like
for 30 seconds and then they'll go back to their life.
Right. This isn't like a big deal. I don't think that...
Even if they do judge you or make fun of you or make you feel weird, that's about them.
Okay, Susan, you've never changed your mind about anything? I see who you're married to. You should have changed your mind many times before now, honey.
Or is that person living their best life? Is that person doing work that really is meaningful to them and they never question that?
Are they in the happiest, healthiest relationship that they can be in? Like, come on.
And what they've just done is demonstrate that they are that kind of person who makes up their mind about something and then doesn't ever change it. That's not the narrow-minded person you want to be or the judgmental person you want to be. So if anybody judges you for changing your mind for a deeply personal and conscientious, thoughtful reason, like, goodbye.
I wonder, because this would be what I would be thinking. I don't know if this is what everyone is thinking. And I don't know if this is what Shelby is thinking. But part of why I wouldn't want to talk to people about the fact that I'd changed my mind is because I wouldn't want them to think they were right.
And give them that satisfaction.
Yeah, because that's not what it's about.
But if that's how they interpret it, then
yes,
that's still on them.
Again, that's not, you can't control how someone interprets it, but you are absolutely allowed to say to Susan, I'm sorry, but this is the person that I've named and this is how it will
I don't know who this poor Susan person is.
She's a bitch in my example. Okay.
The new Karen.
And she's not happy with her life and she's judging Shelby for changing her mind. But you get to be like, no, Susan, I didn't change my mind because all of a sudden I think you're right. Your thoughts on marriage are completely irrelevant to why I changed my mind. I changed
you don't
my
even
mind.
Have to say that necessarily.
Oh, absolutely. You can if you want to.
Rachel would say that.
You'd be like, no. I now understand what it means to me. And in fact, my definition of marriage might very well still differ mightily from yours. And in fact, you might not even approve of my definition of marriage. Right? Like,
sure.
So there's that too.
But sometimes, and in your scenario with Susan, this is not applicable, but sometimes you change your mind and you realize somebody has an opinion that now that I see it through a different perspective, I actually maybe do agree with it. And I had been really vocal. And that can still be embarrassing to say, maybe you were right. But there's no harm in being humble sometimes.
No.
Now, if you know it's somebody who's going to be really smug about it, then first of all, why are you so close with
obviously
really
Susan
smug
is her
people?
Aunt in this example.
Obviously.
So you can't always detach yourself from your aunt's opinions on Facebook.
But all I'm saying is other people's reaction to you changing your mind is about them. If they get smug, you can be annoyed by that, but it's not about you.
The only reason Susan is smug is because she's too afraid to leave her marriage. And so she needs you to approve of marriage so that she feels good about staying in her unhappy one.
I mean, we're going real down the rabbit hole with Susan, but
everyone knows the Susan.
That's why people react the way they do. It's not about you. It's about how it makes them react or what buttons you have pushed. So if they have a big reaction in your mind, you can just say, whoa, okay, marriage is a touchy subject for them. I just hit some kind of button and move on because it's not about you. But I do think that Rachel's right. It's more empowering to come to them and say, hey, you know what? I've been thinking about this and I'm thinking about it really differently. And I have a new opinion.
I mean, if it comes up in conversation, I'm not asking you to go knock on their door and again, announce it to anybody.
You know, you don't have to announce it, but some people you might want to share. You might have close friends who you're like, I want to tell them how I'm feeling or what I'm thinking about this.
When someone asks you, what's up? How are you doing? Instead of being like, I'm good, you can be like, I'm actually rethinking my entire philosophy on marriage. Do you want to hear about it?
I mean, I feel like that's half of our friend conversations start like that.
I appreciate conversations that start like that. So,
and just recognize that there is nothing to be ashamed in changing your mind. In fact, I think it's a great quality in a person to be able to not get mired in thoughts that you once had and not take in any new information.
And in fact, that's the part that you say out loud again, when you're spinning. This is about spinning. You say, actually, I'm proud of myself for the fact that I stayed open and I changed my mind. And I think we should all be maybe more willing to do that. We should all be a little bit more like me.
You might end up giving somebody else permission to tell you something that they've been changing their mind about and feeling embarrassed by. It could lead to more connection.
Yeah. I mean, hey, maybe you inspire Susan to get that divorce. If you can change your mind about marriage, maybe she can change her mind too.
I don't know. Susan seems very set in her ways, but you never know. You could plant a seed.
Exactly. Be yourself. Stay true to what you want. Own when you've changed your mind. And maybe other people will be inspired by that and will change theirs too.
It can be empowering. Definitely does not need to be shameful. Okay. Last question. Dear Krachel, after years of work, I just realized a lifelong dream. One that took me a really long time to acknowledge I even wanted. And I really, truly felt called by my inner self and the universe to be on this path. However, feelings of elation, achievement, joy, or some other intense or positive emotion are utterly, bafflingly absent. Instead, I feel flat somehow, like it's no big deal, even though it kind of is. What is going on here? This is from Sincerely Nonplussed with Myself.
All right. This is one of those where we have to diagnose a problem, but there are multiple potential diagnoses. Yes. So potential diagnosis number one, you're in shock. That can happen when you've been dreaming and thinking about something. And then all of a sudden it's real. And you're like, huh? Like, what? You're that little kid gif, you know, the one who's like, with her little buck teeth out, and she's like, like, is this too?
Can I trust it?
Is this too great to be true? It's almost hard to access.
I'm like afraid to settle in, because it still feels a little unreal.
Not on a conscious level, but maybe unconsciously. I think there could definitely be some shock that's making it hard for you to sink in and access it and trust it, and then be like, oh wow, this is actually really great. Diagnosis potentially number one.
In which case, it will pass. Shock always passes. And you will, one thing humans are really good at is acclimating to a new normal.
Yeah.
So pretty soon you're gonna be like, of course this is my reality. Why would it be anything else? And it'll feel natural. But right now it might feel a little weird.
Okay.
Possibility number one. Option number two. You could have been living in this dream reality for so long that now that real life has caught up to where you've been in your brain for a long time, it's like, well, duh. It's like not that big of a deal. Like you said, feels like it should be a big deal. It doesn't feel like a big deal. Yeah. Because mentally, this has been true for you. You've achieved this thing in your mind for months, maybe years. And now that it's here, you're like, finally, thank your reality for finally catching up with where I've been this whole time.
I think this is me.
This happens all the time.
This happens all the time. Yeah. Where you're just like, duh. Yeah.
Right.
Like
when you've been dreaming about something, the thing is your brain doesn't know the difference between what you're dreaming and imagining in real life. So sometimes it's more annoying to be working towards something, dreaming about something, moving in the direction of something, and it's not there yet. When it's finally there, it feels like, what took you so long?
Right.
It doesn't feel like exciting and elating and overjoyed.
It's like annoyed it took you so long for it to catch up.
You're like, of course, this is my reality. Why'd you take so long? Like, I've been here waiting for you to show up. So that could be, which would be really actually normal. That's a powerful way that you create and manifest anything in life is you have to mentally, emotionally live it before the reality shows it to you. In which case, it's not that big of a deal at that point.
Believing is seeing.
So that's a potential diagnosis.
Strong potential diagnosis. Now, of course, potential diagnosis number 3. It could be what a lot of you were probably, when you heard that question, were thinking it could be, which is, oh, this isn't what I thought. I've been putting all of my eggs in this basket, emotionally speaking. And I've been chasing this potentially for reasons that I thought were pure, and now I'm getting it and it's just falling short. And it's not actually capable of satisfying me to the degree that I thought it was. And now I'm having a bit of an existential panic, but it's manifesting as numbness.
Rather than have been treating this like a white knight that was going to save me. And now that I'm here, I'm not fully saved because it was never capable of doing that in the first place.
Now, in that case, though, they might be asking, well, hold on, but I was guided by this. The universe, I felt very, very called to this very strongly. So how could it be that I felt called to something and then it just didn't work out, or it fell flat, or not that it didn't work out, but that I didn't feel anything when I got it? That doesn't seem right. That doesn't add up, right? Not so fast. It might. Because a lot of the time, we have an episode we did about this that I'll link to in one of our episodes about intuition, where we answered the question of like, well, I thought I followed my intuition and then it didn't work out. So was that intuition? It's a big question. Yeah, because I think what we'll often do is we'll mistake intuition as a guarantee that something's going to work out. Like romantic relationships are the best example, because it's like we'll feel very called to be with a certain person and then we'll break up after a year and we'll be so confused because we'll think, I thought that was my person. I had all these feelings. I had all this intuition about them. But you were the one who was assigning the meaning to the intuition. You were the one who was going, oh, it must be because they're my person and I'm supposed to be with them forever. And intuitively, it might have just been, yeah, this was the person you were needing to be with for now. Just like
there was value in this relationship for this amount of time.
Yes, but
there was value in achieving whatever you just achieved. But that didn't mean it was the savior of your life, right? That doesn't mean it was going to deliver all of the joy and happiness and fulfillment on a silver platter. It just means this was an important thing that's going to mean a lot to you. And it's a part of the whole rest of your life, which is all contributing to the value and meaning and joy that you experience day to day.
I mean, I still don't know why the universe keeps bugging me with Scotland signs, and it has not shut up. It has been years. I have gone twice thinking, well, I'll figure it out once I go. Nope. I don't know. I have written and spoken quite at length about what I think it means. And I still don't know. And I'm trying just to not know, to just be okay that I don't know. Because I think disappointment often shows up when we ascribe a certain meaning to something that we don't actually for sure know if that's what it's about. I think intuition is, I'm supposed to be having this experience. It's not necessarily, I think we start to interpret when we go, for how long and how significant is it? And it must be the thing I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life. Those are typically like human interpretations that we're pasting on top of intuition. That could be happening here.
Mm-hmm. You thought it was supposed to be for some reason and it was for a different reason, but still a valuable reason. I don't know. That's a possibility. Another probably simple, but very possible possibility is that you're kind of burnt out. You said, after years of work, I just realized a lifelong dream. Well, after those years of work, you might be tired.
Yeah, it's like studying, cramming for an exam, and then you take it and then you get sick and you're like, wait, I thought I'd be so excited for that exam to be over. And now I'm just like in bed and I can't move. Could be that.
You could have run yourself a little bit ragged over the years, putting your work into creating this thing, which would be normal. I mean, we've told the story before of that first year or two of business. Rachel and I put so much effort into creating the business and the offerings. And I mean, it was a big lift. We probably should have taken our own advice from our first question here. We didn't have to work quite so hard right at the beginning.
No, we could have worked a lot smarter. We could have worked
a lot smarter.
We worked very hard and very dumb.
And very dumb. If I think back to some of the things we did, not the smartest.
I mean, maybe not very hard and sort of dumb.
Yeah.
I'll be nicer.
Maybe not very dumb.
But it wasn't smart.
We could have been more strategic, for sure. And we burnt ourselves out. We were exhausted after that huge push.
I'm not convinced I've ever recovered from it. But I've also had plenty of other things to burn me out since then. So take your pick.
So if you've achieved something and now you're just tired, that can make you feel flat. It can make you not feel the high highs you were expecting because the exhaustion is set in now that you finally run the end of the marathon.
I don't discount any combination of these diagnoses. Mm-hmm. You could be burnt out and in shock. Mm-hmm. And that would definitely be numbness.
Sure.
Like that could totally show up as just flatlining. So
think about someone who literally ran a marathon. At the end, you expect them to be full of joy and elation, and
maybe for like a second.
But then they're probably like, I need to sit down. I'm really tired. I mean, I feel great about that accomplishment, but damn, do I feel tired.
Intellectually, I might feel proud of myself, but physically, I feel like crap.
Yeah. Yeah. So that would be okay. It might sink in later. And you're like, wow, good for me. Now that I've recovered a little bit, I'm really proud of that.
I don't know. I've never run a marathon, so we're only guessing here.
Oh, I've run a 5K and I feel that way. I don't need to run a marathon to feel the exhaustion at the end of a race. I mean, God, marathon. Good. Like,
I don't think we were meant to run that much.
I don't ever want to run. That's not even on my bucket list.
The original guy who did it died. I mean, that was kind of, in Greece. That was the whole point, is he just kind of dropped dead afterward. I don't think we should be pushing ourselves that hard, but you do you, if that's what you really like.
But this could have been a mental marathon, or this could have been a emotional marathon. But regardless, you might be just as tired at the end of it. So you might need to recover before you feel all the feelings that are associated with this.
All right. Well, I hope you take any one or combination of those potential diagnoses and see if something resonates. I'm pretty sure something in that stood out more than the others or felt truer.
And no matter which one feels the most true or which combination, none of them are a sign of anything that's wrong. I just want to emphasize that. If you're tired or you're in shock or reality just finally caught up to where you've been living or any number of those things, that's okay. That's a normal part of wanting something, working toward that thing, achieving that thing, and also recognizing there's something about the human brain that I think is more attracted to desire than having. Desiring something feels kind of exciting. It feels kind of giddy. Now it can also feel exhausting, but when you want something, you're imagining this beautiful reality when that thing finally shows up. And it's like a kid anticipating Christmas morning versus the kid at the end of the day on Christmas Day who's play with all their toys and they're like, okay, well, kind of tired now. Like I got all the stuff I wanted and it was fun, but now I'm just kind of like, meh. The anticipation getting up to Christmas Day was probably more fun than having all the stuff at the end of Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And so if part of this is just okay, it was fun to want something. And I'm really proud that I achieved it. And what do I want now?
It's okay to want something new.
It's okay. The point is not that you're going to get all your desires and then never have desire again.
No.
You're human. You're going to want more stuff and new stuff. And you can lean into that if that re-sparks some energy and some excitement.
But obviously it's okay to want to enjoy what you've achieved and to be able to access those feelings.
Yes.
So I'm glad you're asking the question, and hopefully within any of that, there was some kernel of an answer.
Mm-hmm. I'd love for you to let us know. You're like, ooh, it was definitely diagnosis number 2 or
sure.
a combo of 1 and 3, or I don't know. I would be curious to know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, any of our question askers, past and present, please let us know if you have updates after you've listened to your question being answered and you want to share how it landed with you. Email us, contact@clarityonfire.com.
We do love updates.
Or DM us on Instagram or something. I'll see that. And if you want to ask us a question for an upcoming episode of Dear Krachel, in the show notes of every episode, there is a link to the form where you can submit a question. You can always email us directly at contact@clarityonfire.com and just put Dear Krachel in the subject line if that's easier for you. As you're going about your life and you have a question occur to you, just pull up your email and just send it to us, and I'll file it away for a potential future episode. Mm-hmm. I love holding on to them. And I always get, I usually have more than I can answer. So sometimes if we're having, if you don't answer it that month, maybe you'll hear it the next month. Keep listening. Mm-hmm. Okay. We will be back next Friday with a brand new interview with a normal person.
This is a fun one because this is a long-time podcast listener, turned now podcast interviewee.
Love that.
And she just published a book, and it is exactly where I think some of you are. So I think you're going to really love this concept. It was a really fun conversation. Her name is Jamie Hillman. And if you want to check out her book before we get into it more next week, it's on Amazon, called 7 Signposts. And it's, I'll let her give more of a description next week. So if you get really intrigued to go read the description, go ahead. But it's really about the 7 big life decisions that, there's more than 7, but she hones in on 7 really big, influential life decisions and different takes on how to approach them. And there's kind of conflicting wisdom or approaches out there. And she explores them and helps you figure out what makes sense for you. So we got into a really good conversation about nuance and figuring out your path and not getting stuck on what you should be doing, which so many of us do. Anyway, it was a very current, relevant conversation to, I think, what a lot of us are feeling. And Jamie's just really fun to listen to. So it's a good conversation, but check out her book in the meantime, and we'll get much more into it next week.
Okay. See you then.